If you are interested in history and World War II, know that at some point in your life, you ask this question: what happened with the families of the most iconic figures in Nazi Germany? Well, in this video, we are going to reveal this mystery. Martin Bormann Jr. was the eldest son of the famous Nazi official Martin Bormann, who was one of the closest people to the Führer. Martin Bormann Jr. was born on April 14, 1930. He had a pretty normal childhood, far away from the gruesome crimes of Nazi Germany around Europa and the rest of the world. His father's sins will hunt him after the war. After the war, Martin Jr. converted to Catholicism, realizing what crimes Nazi Germany committed during the war and his father's involvement in all of that. He tries to change some things in his life and distances himself far away from his father's past. He even goes to church missions in Congo and Cameroon to correct some sins that his father committed, but every time his father's demons hunt him and catch him. In 2011, Martin Bormann Jr. was accused of several abuses over a few students in 1960. However, because Martin was suffering from dementia at the time of the trial, this accusation was denied. The court awarded the accuser's compensation. Nicholas Frank, son of one of the most brutal Nazi criminals in World War II, Hans Frank, or as most of us know him, the Butcher of Poland, was born in 1939, and he was very young to understand anything that was happening at that period: the crimes, the war, and the Holocaust. Nicholas dedicated all of his life to finding answers to why his father committed these crimes, and what was the reason for such hate for the people. Nicholas Frank publicly accused his father's actions and confronted his sins and involvement in the crimes. He even wrote a book, Shadow of the Reich, in which he talks about his father's actions and crimes, and how his father's past made a permanent mark on his life. Edda Göring was the only child of Hermann Göring, the right hand of the Führer, and his wife Emmy. Edda was born in 1938, far away from the public. Most of her time she spent with his mother on the Göring family estate, enjoying all the privileges that come with Göring's last name. German people described her as a symbol of Nazi Germany. As the war was coming to an end and everyone knew the outcome, she and his mother decided to move to their mountain residence near Obersalzberg and wait for the court to decide about her father's crimes. Hermann Göring was sentenced to death. Later, he took his own life. Edda tries to live her life far away from the public, but her father's sins always hunt her. She never talked about her father and the crimes that he committed until she was a guest on a talk show in Sweden where she expressed affection to both of her parents. She died in 2018. Albert Speer Jr. was the son of one of the most important people in the Nazi regime and one of the closest people to the Führer. His father was the main architect of Hitler and also the armaments minister of Germany at that time. He was responsible for the production of all weaponry that Germany was producing before the war and during the war. Albert Speer Jr. was born in July 1934, before Hitler's rise to the throne. He had a normal childhood for that period. He was constantly with his father, and with that, he was also in the company of Hitler. Hitler loved him very much. After the war ended, Albert Speer Sr. was one of the few Nazi officials who show regret for the crimes of the Nazi regime, and for that, he was sentenced to 20 years of prison. He died in 1981. Albert Speer Jr. tries to distance himself from his father's past, and what Speer's last name means, he tries to live a normal life. He died in his residence in Frankfurt in 2017 at the age of 83. Rolf Mengele was the son of the most brutal person in the Nazi regime at that time. Rolf Mengele was the son of Josef Mengele, aka the Angel of Death. He was the architect of the brutal Nazi crimes at that time. Rolf was born in 1944, and with that, he didn't know his father at all. When Rolf was little, his father was presented to him as a war hero and a person to admire. After his teenage years, Rolf finds the shocking truth of his father is what he did at that time. The gruesome crimes and horrible executes of the Jews. Rolf was devastated, but even with that, he tried to live a normal life. He finished college and got hired as a lawyer. But his past was not letting him go. He was constantly under the eye of Nazi hunters who were thinking that he was in contact with his father. This was very true. Josef Mengele was constantly sending letters to his son. And this was the reason for Rolf visited his father in South America in 1977 to find some answers to all of his crimes. Rolf admits that he visited his father and knew where he was hiding all the time, but didn't have the courage to betray his own father. In their conversation, he didn't show any sins of remorse for what he did. He was a cold man,